Hello, fight fans. Thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Raul Rosas Jr. requests the UFC provide him with a ranked opponent next. Lastly, the 10 winningest fighters in UFC history. Raul Rosas Jr. believes he should be given a ranked opponent in his next fight with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. As we know, Raul Rosas Jr. is a pretty impressive and ambitious young man. Following his successful appearance on Dana White's Contender Series 2 years ago, he signed a deal with the promotion. Since then, he's been able to put together a 4-1 record with the company, which has included 3 finishes. The 19-year-old, who will enter his 20s in a few weeks, most recently picked up a win at Noche UFC as his impressive run continues. Now, however, it's all about working out how to scale up from here. In a recent interview, Rosas Jr. made it known that he wants to fight a top 15 guy next. Here is what he said. Personally, I know I'm ready, but even if I'm not ready, I'll figure out a way to be ready for that date and opponent. If I'm ready, which I think I am, I can still get even more ready so I can do more than just win, but actually finish and impress everyone, but more importantly the UFC so they can keep giving me fights toward the belt. That's why I asked for somebody ranked. Either way, if I don't get someone in the rankings, I want somebody that gets me a ranked opponent. All I want is the title. I want the title. So whatever fight takes me closer, that's the fight I want. In the world of mixed martial arts, a fighter's win record in the UFC is a testament to their skill and resilience. We'll highlight the 10 winningest fighters in UFC history, celebrating their incredible achievements and the dedication that propelled them to the top. From grappling experts to striking sensations, these athletes have left an indelible mark on the sport. Jon Jones is the greatest fighter ever in the eyes of many, especially UFC CEO Dana White, and rightfully so because he has put together a resume unlikely anyone else in UFC history. It will forever remain a mystery how much further ahead Bones would be if personal issues, injuries, and more didn't sideline him from competition for significant portions of time, but it hasn't hurt him too badly as he's on this list with the highest winning percentage of anyone. Rafael dos Anjos was in the UFC nearly 7 years before he finally captured the lightweight title. Since losing the belt, he spent his years bouncing between the welterweight and 155-pound divisions, adding more to his win total. He's had some tough results of late, but is still exclusively fighting top-tier competition. Submission artist Demian Maia was a title contender in both the welterweight and middleweight divisions during his UFC career. He only lost to the very best inside the octagon, and after fighting more than any Brazilian in company history at that time, had his final MMA fight in June 2021. Charles Oliveira is arguably the most exciting fighter in UFC history, and his resume is littered with records. He might one day find himself at the top of this list, but for now he'll have to live with owning the most finishes, 20, submissions, 16, and fight night bonuses, 19 in company history. Neil Magny has taken on the duty of being a willing gatekeeper in the UFC welterweight division for roughly half a decade, and during that time he's racked up plenty of wins. Now he finds himself in the thick of the pack, and it remains to be seen how many more victories he can tack on in the late stage of his career. Dustin Poirier has built an iconic reputation in the octagon despite never having captured an undisputed title. The former interim UFC lightweight champ has endeared himself to fans with his approach to the fight game that has lent to Fight of the Year battles and multiple showdowns with some of the biggest names the sport has ever seen. Max Holloway is one of a kind in so many ways that he represents the anomaly on this list and perhaps the biggest candidate to be first to reach 30 UFC wins. The former featherweight champion and BMF title holder is the youngest of all fighters mentioned above and below him, and although Holloway's story is still very much being written, here he finds himself already. Donald Cerrone had a rapid rise up the UFC's all-time wins list due largely to his sheer rate of activity. Cowboy held the all-time victories record for multiple years, but he has been eclipsed after retiring from MMA competition in July 2022. Shortly after hanging up his gloves, Cerrone was inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame as part of the 2023 class. Andrei Arlovski pulled every ounce of value out of his UFC career with more than 23 years going by between his first and final appearance in the organization. The former heavyweight champion was one arguably the best in the world in the mid-2000s, then went on to be written off multiple times afterward. He managed to stick around the UFC for several more eras though, and only in June 2024 did his run come to an end. Jim Miller has steadily climbed his way to the top of the list through a remarkably consistent career. He has never competed for a UFC championship, but Miller has crafted out a legacy of his own in being the most seen fighter to ever step in the octagon, and the one who has had his hand raised more than any other. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.